Let's do this. Sports Gaming, Diablo 4, Blizzard's plan to keep you playing and paying. Before we watch this, I do want to see what the comment section is saying. I just want to know what their kind of like opinion about Blizzard is lately. But let's see. Seems like most people don't, but I really do care about the lore and story. Hope the gameplay and story are both good. Technically, I do care about the Diablo lore, but only after I play the game. So it's like I don't care about the lore as a standalone. I care about after the fact of me getting involved in the game. Great video and very interesting to absorb your insights about the game. Both you and Riker have been my favorite Diablo content creators for quite some time now. As a hardcore D2 boomer, I am very excited for this one. The Necromancer Armor Gear showcase was just so bloody gruesome. See, I don't understand people who care about cosmetics in an ARPG. You can barely see your character, especially when you're like surrounded by mobs. I am also very curious about 3D sounds effect in dungeons. Hopefully it's a scary and creepy experience. Didn't look like it so far. Always appreciate your coverage. Definitely looking forward to the story and lore quests. Okay, been playing on and off since the internal beta. Gameplay feels really good. I think once more people get in and start to play, they will definitely enjoy it. So much to do in each zone. I can't wait to see the finished product. Okay, let's see.
So IGN released a video this week interviewing Diablo 4 game director Joe Shelley and Diablo GM Rod Ferguson, where they sat down to talk a bit about playtesting during development, the endgame beta, and their plans for Diablo as a live service. While a lot of this was kind of broad, unspecific fluff, really, there were a few interesting bits that I wanted to touch on here in today's video.
This is probably, I mean, I've been making games for like 22 years now, and D4 is the game that I felt like has been more holistically tested than any other game I've been a part of, because it's really part of the philosophy of Blizzard.
If you watched my other video when I said that's like the gameplay doesn't look like, you know, anything special, whatever, and it's not to say the game looks good, don't get me wrong, the gameplay looks good, looks smooth and everything like that. It just doesn't look like it's nothing unique, you know? It's like I feel like we have very similar gameplay from free-to-play game. The gameplay is not what is gonna sell me on Diablo 4, right? I mean, the gameplay would sell me on Diablo 4 if it was more than this, but this gameplay doesn't really sell me on Diablo 4. It looks good, but that's about it, you know?
And of this team in particular, to be able to go in and be able to go, okay, we can play from beginning to end, let's play.
Now, what I found interesting here is the way that he spoke about this, and he touched on it a few times later in the video as well, really implies that D4 has been in a playable state from start to finish for some length of time now. First, they started by letting members of the dev team bring the game home to test it over the holidays and give their feedback, and then after the dev team, they opened it up to all of Blizzard, and then all of...
The mount system is really cool though, that you can travel around the world a lot faster. I'm hoping there are waypoints and mount system as well, not just mounts. But traveling around the world is good. Being able to see other players around the world is good. Like, these are good features, don't get me wrong. But so far, it's like, I don't find the uniqueness, you know? There's nothing that like, man, I really want to play this game. This looks cool as fuck. I want to play this shit like tomorrow. Nothing about this game does that for me at all. And it's not because like, oh, you just don't like ARPGs. I tried every ARPG. I tried Epoch, for example, recently. And Epoch, the reason I tried it is because I saw some of the, I was like, oh shit, I really want to try this. I never made it there because the leveling process was just like, I'm like, not my thing. Like the whole gameplay was not my thing. But at least there was something in the game that drew me in. Whereas, like, in Diablo, so far, I haven't seen anything that I was like, fuck, that looks cool, I really want to do that.
Of ABK, and then to the friends and family testing, which we know started earlier in the year, and now which is currently running, being their end game beta. But then he touched on the fact that they've got something next for testing planned.
And then we're going to be going into open beta, you know, next year, where we're going to be, you know, trying to crush our servers and trying to get as much feedback as we can there.
Now, the idea of them having an open beta isn't exactly surprising, but I do believe this is the first time they've officially said they will be having an open beta. At least it's the first time that I've heard official discussion of it, and I think that's absolutely great news. Specifically, the term open beta implies that it won't require any sort of pre-orders in order to play, which is even better. And frankly, at least to some extent, it lends me to believe that they have a fair bit of confidence in their...
It might not require, but they might prioritize. So it's like, let's say they want to have a server limit of 100,000, you'll have priority queue or something like that. Though at the same time, if they have enough pre-orders, they can just allow open beta for only the pre-orders as well. So there's no guarantee. It really depends on like if there are that many pre-orders. And I believe there will be. There will be probably like, I am more than sure that at least 30% of the player base that eventually will buy it would be pre-orders. At least 30%.
Product in what they're delivering with Diablo 4. Just the fact that they're opening up to the masses assumes that they think it's going to do more good than harm for the sale of their game, which
I really don't like the UI. Like this part, I really don't like it. This looks out of place. This looks like out of the way too much to the point where it's like you wouldn't notice your HP in the bar. I don't know how much you can change your own UI though, so that's fine, but if he changed it to this, then whatever. It's just, if this is the default and you can't change it, I'm not happy with that.
I think it's going to do more good than harm.
I really hope there's also dual wielding, like weapon swapping and stuff like that. And when you swap weapons, you also swap your skills. So like you have the 1, 2, 3, 4 and the 2 mouse buttons. And when you swap, you would have it 4 different skills that you chose plus the 2 mouse buttons.
For the sale of their game, which makes me assume that they're pretty comfortable with what they're delivering in terms of a gameplay experience and all of that. We can probably at the same time though assume that the open beta, if it is in fact what that ends up being early next year, probably won't have all of the monetization stuff that might end up pushing people away, and it also probably isn't gonna be a duration that's gonna give people enough time to thoroughly put the game through its paces for the cracks to start to show of any of the longevity issues that the game might have. But regardless, they did also touch a little bit further about and talk about the current endgame beta testing that's happening right now, why they're doing it, the sort of benefits they're getting from it, and how it's going.
This is one of the first times that we've tested, like how to test specifically for the endgame. This gives us an opportunity to test the endgame systems before we get to launch and then make adjustments and really make sure that when the game comes out, there's some content there that has had some testing against it and had some adjustments made, so they're not beta testing it at launch.
Yes, not beta testing your games at launch. That is a fantastic idea. How much they're actually able to live up to that has yet to be determined until the game actually releases, of course, and will largely come down to their endgame systems, which they did touch on the importance of the endgame in D4 as well.
Yeah, I mean, Diablo is a systems game, right? That's what we talk about. Like, you know, look at my experience with D3. I played D3 for hundreds of hours, like literally hundreds of hours, and I've played the campaign in D3 probably twice.
Exactly. And I think that's the case for myself and a lot of other people who played Diablo 3 of the hundreds of...
This is 100% the case for majority of people. I would say, I think I did the story total maybe 4 times. 2 of them on Demon Hunter, 1 Barbarian, 1 on the Sork, I believe. Everyone else, no, not even Sork. What did I do it on? Actually Paladin, probably Paladin. Yeah, and the only reason I did that is because I want to see what it's like leveling those characters, like leveling those classes, how they feel. The double Demon Hunters, because I actually thought the story might... this is like way early when Adventure Mode just came out, and I believe the story mode was just like a more interesting way to level than Adventure. Like the XP difference wasn't that big, and the story would just be more interesting. I was wrong, but, you know, that was just my feeling. It's like I didn't really test it out back then. This is like super early days of Adventure Mode.
Of hours that
but yeah, I don't think anyone really like does the story like aside from the first time, and I think that's fine. Having Adventure Mode is fine. It just allows for different ways to level up. As long as you did the story once, I think that's okay. But that being said, Diablo is a systems game. I mean, yeah, but the D3 systems were really fucking bad, so you know, they weren't like bad. They were bad long term. Obviously, when they just came out, they were totally fine. But as you kept going, it's like there's nothing to do. It's just the same shit. Regrind Paragon, regrind the same legendaries. If there's buffs, rebuffs, and then grind your ancients and whatever.
I've spent in the game. Yeah, the campaign was played through maybe once or twice. Most of it is engaged in the endgame systems and replaying with the seasons specifically. And I think that's the case as well for pretty much anyone who plays most ARPGs, most MMOs, or any live service game in a long-term fashion. The main story, the campaign, that ends up being less than like 1% of total playtime because it's all about the character progression, the gearing, clearing of content. That is what delivers those hundreds or thousands of hours of playtime in a game, not the story about how you took on the world-ending threat or you saved the city. That is all just window dressing. It isn't the view that you're there for, right? Now, outside of endgame systems at release, the other big thing that's going to play a large role here is, of course, the seasons. This was the case in Diablo 2, Diablo 3, Path of Exile, and many ARPGs. Seasons are where a lot of the long-term replayability does come from because they provide a way to mix things up and keep the game fresh. So let's talk about seasons in Diablo 4. The biggest thing that they discussed in the interview was their approach to seasons. This being like the live service component of the game is promised to be larger in scope and scale than Diablo 3, and it's also just so happens to be the main justification they've used for monetizing the game the way they are. So the first thing,
I don't know how they're monetizing the game, to be honest, but we'll see how much of a live, whatever it is called, like a live game it will be, how many updates, what the updates are, you know, shit like that. If it's just gonna be like balance and tuning and stuff like that, and like no actual content, I mean, doesn't mean anything. It's like, also lore-wise, what would you even add as content to the world? Okay, like, because obviously we're gonna defeat Lilith in the story. Not obviously, but probably, right? What would then be? So Diablo is dead, Mephisto is dead, Baal is dead, now Lilith is gonna probably die. Her son, the guy from the cinematic, forgot his name, he's probably gonna die, probably in Act 3. He looks like an Act 3 boss, I don't know, maybe an Act 2. And it's like, okay, where are we gonna go with the rest of it? Are we gonna fight angels as well? We're gonna go down and fight demons? Like, we're gonna go to like all the layers of hell, then we're gonna kill all the angels because then we are too powerful for the angels to contend, so they have a problem. That's like, I don't like, what would you really add in terms of zones, right? Maybe gameplay modes? I know they have PvP, but it's like maybe like different types of rifts and shit, different types of dungeon.
thing they covered was kind of like their rough goal
Speed trials.
of trying to release 4 seasons a year.
We've been trying to be a little cagey just because, but when you start that train of now we're a service and people are expecting seasons, where you, I think, succeed on players' minds is having consistency to know, oh, every 3 months there's a new season coming. And so if you go like, well, my ambition is I want to do a little more here, so it's actually going to be 3 months and 3 weeks, and then you start to lose that promise to the player and they don't know when to predict or how to think about it. And our intention is to have a heartbeat, is to have a cadence of content that players can rely on and know is both from a season perspective and from an expansion perspective.
So I think that's fair. We know that game development can be a bit messy and it can certainly be unpredictable. We see this time and time again with roadmaps and planned release schedules of content just not happening the way that developers say they will prior to launch or whenever they lay out their roadmap. And if they are living up to the promise of a live service Diablo game having more substantial updates and more substantial seasons than what we saw in D3, for example, there are probably bound to be some updates where whatever they're planning to add takes a little bit longer than anticipated. Hopefully, though, on the flip side, that could also mean that there are some updates that come in a shorter fashion. We'll have to see, though, but they're being very purposeful to not set hard deadlines of like 4 seasons for sure every year, every 3 months. They're not saying that. They're saying roughly 4 a year. That is their goal, up to 4 a year. So with that said, what are their plans for seasons in Diablo 4? How are they going to look? What are they going to include? Well,
the design of D3 seasons is certainly a foundational element for us here, and where we see that going with Diablo 4 is, so it's not just changes that we can do to the meta, but also additional features that can come in, with seasons, and really making them change up the gameplay of Diablo in meaningful ways and exciting ways, and having exciting new things to check out every time. So
Okay, so that was really, really vague. Like,
Yeah, I was going to say, like, that told us absolutely nothing. It's like, what do you mean make it more interesting? Are we going to have new zones, new content? There's going to be, like, affixes and dungeons? Like, what does that mean? Yeah.
literally zero specifics on what we can expect from seasons, other than saying new stuff will come that'll keep it fresh and interesting. Fortunately, however, Blizzard has provided a bit more detail on their live service plans, and this was back during Diablo 4's August quarterly update. They said that seasons play an important role in Diablo's longevity, and as such, they are planning on making the first one available soon after launch and building a dedicated team to bring up to 4 seasons a year, as we just heard about is just kind of a ballpark figure, with each adding new features, quest lines.
I mean, I'm going to expect 3 seasons. I think 4 month seasons are fine. I wouldn't expect 4. Like 3 month per season feels a bit short, specifically because some seasons have more holidays in them. Like some months will have more holidays in them, some will have less, so people will have less or more time to play. I feel like 4 months would just hit it a bit better. So even if you have more time to play, it won't be as significant in like some months compared to others. But and also like taking 4 months break from a game like for the season is not that big of a deal.
Enemies, legendary items, and more. They went on to say that Diablo 4 seasons are modeled after those of Diablo 3. When a new season begins, all the characters from the prior season are moved to the Eternal Realm, and then to play the new season, you'll have to create a fresh character, which is like pretty much exactly what they do currently with Diablo 3 seasons, except ideally, we're going to be seeing way more new stuff and variety outside of just like some changes to the meta and a couple of gameplay tweaks. So for reference, if you haven't kept up with how D3 seasons work, the most recent Diablo 3 Season 27 came with the seasonal theme called Light's Calling, and this...
The thing I hate about these seasons is similar to how I hate patches in World of Warcraft. If the seasons are on a fast cadence, like 3 months, you want to let people have the ability to actually, get the shit they want to get within those few months, right? Though at the same time, the difference between that and WoW is because in WoW, once the patch comes out, everything else is irrelevant. Whereas when the season comes out, technically, you can still play the same character outside of the season and do finish your build. So in that regard, it is different, but I don't want to, let's say I'm a season Andy and, I want to finish a build and it's just impossible within the season time limit to finish a build, just because of how bad RNG is. But I know I'm more okay with the randomness in ARPGs than I am in MMORPGs, because technically I still have the character in the non-season aspect and I can still probably get the items I want and whatever.
This introduced basically a new consumable item where you could add 1 of 3 random new class-specific powers to a piece of legendary gear that you have. Then there are seasonal cosmetics, and these were actually, for this season, they're reused from the ones that we got in Season 15. And then there's the Season Journey, which is basically like a season-long checklist of things that you do to defeat certain bosses on various difficulties, progress these things, unlock these things, and they just give you rewards. Like you can unlock an extra stash tab, or there's the Hadrig's Gift, which is essentially every season, every class has a full set of free class armor that they can unlock. Then there's also the Season Conquest and some light balance passing on certain weapons or armor or sets or legendaries or classes, some adjustments here and there. But yes, of course, we are hoping that seasons in Diablo 4 are more substantial and bring a lot more to the table. And what should we expect? So in the quarterly update, they said that their goal here was to shake the box of D4 with each season, creating unique experiences, and then they broke up into a few sections.
I'll tell you what I really hope that they don't do for these seasons. I hope there's no PTR per season. This PTR mentality needs to fucking die. It ruins the game for everybody. They can just pay someone to test the fucking game. I am so sick and tired of having PTR and then before the fucking season releases, everyone already has a fucking guide on the best builds, on what's gonna be strong, what's gonna be weak. There's no room for people to just fucking explore. And yeah, I know you can say it's like, well, just don't consume that content. You're playing in a very competitive environment. You have to consume that content if you want to be relevant. So yeah, you have to. If this was single player, then yeah, whatever. If I was playing Elden Ring and they release a patch, like what, like, you know, buffing some abilities and shit, then yeah, I don't have to consume it. I can play at my own pace and really figure out what build I want to go by reading the, what's it called, the patch notes. But that's not the case. You're playing in a live environment with other players. You don't want to waste your time doing shit that, you know, you don't have time to waste, because fucking like the season's gonna end by the time you figure shit out. Right? So I hope PTR is not a thing. So everyone has to figure shit out.
Diving a little bit further into what this will be. The first section was new content. Each season will be released with a fresh new gameplay feature and quest line that introduces new challenges, mysteries, and possibilities into the level up experience.
This is not so much for me. Usually, if I'm really into a game, I would only like master one character, right? So what I just talked about won't affect me almost at all. Once I play a character long enough, I know the intricacies of the character and I can figure out what the best build is without watching a guide, right? Similar to how I had like my own builds of a red paladin in Legion and I was topping DPS charts even though I wasn't following the next Icy Vein guide, okay? Because I had my own feel for the character and I knew like my own breakpoints for percentages without reading any fucking guide, okay? So this won't affect me. However, this will ruin the game for a lot of players who just do not want to copy paste the fucking build and they want to explore, but they, because of the community, they will be forced to copy paste builds.
Experience. So very specific wording here that makes it clear that they're aiming for one new gameplay feature and quest line, that's not plural, with every season. They touched on how the quest line will reveal like more of the world's story and lore, but again, I don't really care. The big question for me is what is this new feature that each new season will come with? Are we talking like entirely new systems? Like, for example, we know that the end game activities when Diablo 4 launches, there's 4 main things we'll be doing. Hell Tides, which are like zone-wide events where all the enemies get buffed up and you get special rewards.
While roaming Sanctuary on foot or atop your trusty steed, be aware of your surroundings, for you might find yourself caught in a Hell Tide. This is a new region-wide event that becomes available to heroes only once they have reached World Tier 3 Nightmare difficulty. In a Helltide, the servants of Lilith are empowered, having their difficulty increased, but dropping loot worthy of the danger. Her mightiest minions are also out in greater force, and the very ground of Sanctuary, as you know it, has been morphed by the surge in demonic activity.
Rewards from these special chests. Nightmare dungeons, which are sort of just like hard mode versions of the existing dungeons in the game. You bring a key, you unlock a hard version, you get a new key at the end as well as loot, and you keep progressing through harder and harder versions. Kind of like
Mythic
Rifts,
Plus.
but different. Whispers of the Dead
Mythic
are
Plus,
essentially bounty quests. You'll have quests throughout the world, you get a special resource, you turn that in for a reward. And then there's the PvP zones, which are known as Fields of Hatred. That's the thing right now. So we don't know what this new gameplay feature with every season. They haven't provided like a ton of detail, but they did touch on it a little bit further on. So they talk about the fact that they want these seasons to refresh the meta. They say Diablo 4 is a vast...
Well, it won't be very beneficial for them to announce what the new features are. If you announce, let's say, multiple features, right? And let's say one of them like looks a lot better than the others, then everyone will be like, well, I'm waiting for this feature to drop. Meanwhile, you're getting all the features that you don't care about, right? But if you don't know what the next feature is, you have to try this feature because it might be better than the next one, right? So I'd rather keep people out of the loop regarding the features because it would make them more intrigued about the future features or something like that.
last game. We want to ensure that we're keeping existing content and features in place where they remain fun and challenging to participate in. To that end, we will always be evaluating the state of the game to regularly revitalize older stomping grounds. And I absolutely love this idea in general. I want more live service, open world games, more MMOs, more ARPGs to do this kind of thing. Find ways to make lower level zones, bosses, dungeons, and bring them up to the end game to make them a viable form of character and gear progression. Like, give me a reason to revisit that level 10 dungeon or that early game zone. In fact, that is basically what they're doing with dungeons with the nightmare keys, beefing them up to essentially end game versions. If they can do that as well for zones, as well for various points of interest in the open world, if they can do that with open world events that scale to end game or open world bosses, lots of potential here. But revitalize the entire play space wherever possible, but you have to do it in a way that endgame players will actually find it worth their time rather than just grinding nightmare dungeons, for example. Then also, unsurprisingly, they touch on the fact that class balance and tuning will be coming with this seasonal updates. They say we will be constantly adding new legendary and unique items, paragon boards, glyphs, and more that will continually refresh the meta and create new build opportunities. I think this is also very vital. Absolutely a must, really.
The most important thing to me about legendaries, they have to change the gameplay. I don't care if there's a lot of legendaries or a bit, but they have to change the way you play your character. That's my main requirement for a legendary. That's what I feel like a legendary is. It changes the way you play. Just being a bigger stat stick with more passives that increase damage, reduce damage, taking fucking life steal, all that shit. That's not interesting. I want actual fucking shit that changes the way you play, right? Similar to how sets worked in Diablo 3, they changed a lot of how you play the game. Like Marauder set changed, the sentries and all that shit. And the multi-shot set changed how you play the multi-shot. It changes not only the damage, which was ridiculous how much damage it changed the damage, but also the combination of abilities you can use that you couldn't use otherwise.
Not only just talking about tuning up the class balance, but adding things that mix things up, adding new gear pieces or things in the Paragon board or the glyphs or whatever. Make my class have new, different ways to play and engage with the different systems and just take on enemies with every season. That would be a win in my book. They also say that new seasons will come with general game improvements. They'll be doing various things based on feedback that they receive. The team will look to identify quality of life features and polish work that can be done to improve the overall game experience and invite the community to vote upon their priority. Community voting can be kind of hit or miss and can certainly be a double-edged sword in game development. Best of luck here. You kind of just have to hope that the players engaging in
the problem with community voting and shit, usually the ones who are gonna vote or participate, listen to this. Majority people on the forums are the ones who are not happy with the game. Let's just say it like that. Okay? Majority of people who are going to vote are the ones who are not happy with something. The ones who are happy with something usually will just not take part. It's like, well, they should if they want to keep this feature or whatever. And it's like, yeah, but they won't. Because they're just enjoying the features. Or more like, they don't care too much about the feature, but they would if the feature would, they don't know how good they have it until the feature is gone, right? So it's that's why I don't like community voting too much. I think they should just look at metrics and decide on shit like that, but yeah.
This voting are the ones who might know what's best for the game's player base as a whole. By and large, I feel like in a lot of games, the most hardcore player base are pretty self-serving, and I talk about myself in that. Whenever I'm playing a game hardcore, I'm looking to do the things that are going to best attune with the way I'm playing the game. If it is excessively for 12 hours a day and I'm burning through all the content, I'm going to want things that give me something to do, something to work towards, or keep things fresh for me. And that's a bit of a different perspective from the people who might only play 5 to 10 hours a week. Their pace of progression isn't, they don't have the same concerns. They're kind of different experiences that you have to try to cater to. Now, of course, you can argue that the people playing the most hardcore, even the casual players, will eventually reach that level. And so those hardcore players may have kind of that insight earlier on, but you still have to, of course, consider that a wide portion of your player population will not be that most hardcore, that 5
Definitely
to
not, no.
1% of the player base
Definitely
who is
not.
max level in a couple of days and already grinded all of the end game activities after a couple of weeks. That's not everybody. So that's kind of what I mean with the relying on player input, like specifically through surveys to make your decisions. But I suspect that's not the only thing. And in fact, most of what they'll look at, I'm almost certain, is just going to be the metrics that they have under the hood that we don't have access to. And then there are live events. They have said that each season will come with its own unique live event.
I love that they call Living World, but let's be real, it's just gonna be some coded events. They're just gonna repeat themselves on an interval. It's the same as saying like Guild Wars 2 is a living world. I don't think Guild Wars 2 is necessarily a living world. They just have a shit ton of events, right? Like those little mini boss events, defend this, defend that. But these events don't happen because of certain situation. They are coded in, you know? I'm not against it. I'm just saying that's like, it's not a real living world. Right? Living world would be like something cause something to cause something to cause an event, right? Like multiple scenarios would happen or multiple coincidences would happen which would cause an event. Obviously, it's all has to be coded, but you can't predict these things. You can't just like stand there and know, okay, this is gonna cause this right away, you know? Like it has to be multiple stages for the world to feel like it's actually living. Or just get an AI and the AI can just figure shit out and then it's like can be random, right? But like that's what I feel like it should be. It should be more random. It shouldn't be like a scripted event. Like even the Guild Wars 2 event, if you take for example, right? You know how the event will go. Let's say the event started, you know he's going from this point to this point, you have to defend him, and at which interval the mobs will spawn that you have to fight, right? That's not much of a living world. It's a scripted event. In my opinion, the way it should be is like it's not a scripted event. It's like shit can happen that you're not expecting every fucking time. Every time you do this event, it's going to be different, right? Different mobs will attack you, different routes that the NPC will take. But even that will be scripted to just have just more variables. So it's really hard to say what a living world really is at this point. But whatever. I'm digressing. I'm talking about like too much into it. But either way, I don't know why I'm stuck on this point.
An example of a live event might be there's a warning of an impending invasion of Drowned, which may last over the course of a weekend, or maybe there's the arrival of a strange peddler amidst the crags of the dry steppes. These events provide gateways to new adventures and unique awards. I think themed public events are great. They add some variety to the world. This touches back on the idea of getting to reuse content that we've already played through. The limited time vendor, that's kind of lazy to me. It's not very exciting, honestly. The idea that a vendor's gonna show up in the dry steppes and he's probably gonna sell me an items or gears or specialty resources. I could take it or leave it if such a thing didn't exist. It's cool, it's fine. I'm just saying it doesn't get me like pumped up like, ooh, there's gonna
the best thing I've seen a game do about like a vendor, there's used to be an old game, super old, that I used to play, and there was an invisible vendor. Now he's invisible, you can only mouse over him, but you can't actually see him. Or if you have a certain spell like Detect Invisible, you can actually also see him. Maybe. He might have just been a transparent individual who you could only see if you click. But I'm pretty sure you could detect him with invisibility. Anyways, the point is, you talk to him, you tell him bye, you go through his shit. Now, as soon as you tell him bye, he poofs, disappears, and he will appear somewhere else around the fucking map. Right? Now, the thing is, people did figure out there's like 5 locations where he could appear. So people knew that they could always technically find him. And he would also reset himself every hour. So if you didn't find within the hour, by the time you get to like where he would be, he probably would have already reset his location and go somewhere else. Now, I found that to be pretty cool. That means he's always up, and you just have to do some work to find him. But I don't like if there's like, oh, there's a special event once a week at this time, and this NPC spawns. I don't feel like that's a good mechanic overall because, first of all, it's lazy. Second of all, it would suck for some people who don't have the time to log in during those hours, you know?
randomly be a vendor in one of the zones. Woohoo. And then, of course, the season journey. This will be returning for Diablo 4, just like in D3. It is more or less a checklist that you have the season to complete, different activities, and will reward stuff like in-game cosmetics. Although this time it's also tied into a battle pass. Like Diablo 3, the season journey will be free for all players, they say. Completing season journey objectives also grants progress towards the season pass, a new feature with a battle pass style progression that advances alongside the season journey, enabling players to earn even more rewards just by playing. And this circles us back around to...
Now, I don't care about a season pass so long as it is purely cosmetic. I do not give a shit. However, it gives you benefits such as, I don't know how important currency would be, but if currency is important, it gives you extra currency. If XP is important, it gives you extra XP and shit like that. Nah, please, just don't. Cosmetics, I don't give a shit, because honestly, I don't care how people look like in a fucking ARPG. You can barely see your character. People who care about your fucking appearance in ARPG, especially how your skin looks, how your face looks, and all that stuff, you guys are wasting your time. You're never, ever gonna see it, nor will anyone else. But all I'm saying is, aside from cosmetics, in the store, in the season, whatever it's called, battle pass, none.
The lovely topic of monetization in Diablo 4. Funding all of this
16
live
minutes.
service content.
The name of this video, Blizzard's plan to keep you playing and paying. 16 minutes until he got to this topic. Good for him,
talking
man.
about here in this video is the new monetization model. At least that is the primary justification they've given. We of course all know that this is just part and parcel for modern day games, especially live service games, games that get continuous updates. 99 times out of 100 are looking for a lot more than just a base box price. Now, we've covered all of this in prior videos. We've gone into extensive detail. We know that the monetization will include the following: a base box price. You will be paying probably $60 for this game. Maybe they go as low for $50 for like a digital standard edition, but probably $60. Then expansions. Yes, just like Diablo 3 sold Reaper of Souls, Diablo 4 will also sell expansions on top of having a season pass that you can buy every season, which there will be up to 4 a year, as we touched on, and an in-game cash shop that's going to sell cosmetics. This will include weapon and armor skins, armor for your mount, wings and back adornments, and also pets. Quite possibly, they have yet to confirm or deny, we might see convenience features as well. They have said non-stop, they have drove home the point that it will never be pay for power, but that does not exclude pay for convenience. They've just not brought up that topic as if it doesn't exist, as if it's not possible, or as if they just don't want us complaining about it prior to release. But yeah, pay for convenience might very well happen. This could include things like stash space. They even did that in Diablo 3. Yes, there were stash spots that you could spend money on basically through buying the expansion. Maybe they sell character slots, like you can only have 5 characters at first. If you want a 6th slot, it's gonna cost you some extra money. Maybe they sell currency and resources, although you could argue that this...
See, shit like that, like currency and resources also, like, definitely not, but like everything else he said, they do that in, well, technically currency too. They do in Guild Wars too. But the thing is, Guild Wars 2 for the most part is free to play. And you have the option to earn the gold to be able to get your own gems to buy all of that shit anyways. You don't necessarily have to spend money. But Diablo is not a free to play game. You know, it's a pay to play. So you pay, and then you have the shop where you can pay more for convenience. So you're basically like, you're buying the game, but you're not unlocking the whole game. Whereas in Guild Wars 2, you don't have to buy the game to unlock the whole game. Right? I'm not comparing like Diablo 4 to Guild Wars 2. I'm just comparing the mentality of the shop. Right? It's like, I don't like this mentality where it's like, it's very, very like... What's the word I'm looking for? Not even sure what word I'm looking for anymore. Either way, the way Blizzard basically monetizes it is not consumer friendly. I guess that's the word I was looking for. It's just not consumer friendly. They give you a half-baked game. Everything, any convenience you can buy in the store makes you feel like they purposefully released it inconvenient, so you would have to spend extra to buy it. just another reason for me to not really want to play this game. If you saw my other video, I had other reasons as well.
This is pay to win, depending on where the parameters of your definition of that falls, but maybe they don't consider it pay to win, just like they didn't think Diablo Immortal gems counted as gear. And then experience boost for the characters on the Eternal Realms. And some people might balk, well, that is clearly pay to win. You can make the argument that at launch or at the start of a season, being able to purchase experience boost is certainly pay for acceleration over other players, like pay for power in a way, because you're leveling up faster, you're getting stuff faster. That gives you an advantage in the PvP zones faster, right? You can make that A to B to C kind of transition. I think on the Eternal Realms, after launch, a lot of people probably don't really care. I don't really care if someone picks up the game 6 months down the road and they buy an experience boost to.
Yeah, there's a big difference because, like, first of all, a lot of players will know how to make that almost not relevant. It's like, okay, he bought experience boost, he max leveled in 30 minutes, you max leveled in an hour. Yeah, those 30 minutes are not gonna change the game. Even like 1 to 2 hours, even 2 to 4 hours, right? So let's say XP boost is 100%. It's like, it's not that big of a deal once everyone knows what's up, right? But when the game just comes out, people are learning and exploring shit like that. Yes, this is going to be a very unfair advantage. It's going to be an unfair advantage later on as well, just not as unfair anymore.
Level up faster on the Eternal Realm. I'll be playing seasons. Like, I actually don't care what's happening on the Eternal Realm. Do whatever you want over there. Open up RMT for all I care. Like, it really.
Sorry, yeah, he means about like the non-season characters. I mean, like, honestly, even with the season characters, I wouldn't care after like season 2. I wouldn't care if you can buy XP for a season character at that point, because it's like you can do PvP on your other character. Like, you're not really getting much of an advantage after the season 2 just because of people having a lot of knowledge. But obviously this doesn't affect everyone. I'm just talking from myself. If I play season 1 and season 2, anything after that, I'm like, yeah, whatever, it's like XP boost. But yeah, Eternal Realms, obviously I wouldn't care. Once the season is out, you can do whatever you want in the Eternal Realms. You can buy currency for all I care. Real money auction house for all I care. Like, a non-season, I don't give a shit.
Really doesn't matter with a kind of game like this, at least how I approach it. My perspective and how I play this game is different, and there may be people do really care about the Eternal Realms. You know, there's also the whole point of like, well, if they want new players to level faster, they could just like decrease the amount of experience it takes to reach max level instead of selling the ability to do that. But they got to find ways to monetize this live service, right? That is, of course, the argument, and also their business. They'll make money where they can without too much of an uproar. So I think the big question for me here is, at this moment, we just don't know. Like, until the game comes out, we are not sure if all of these new ways to spend money will result in a higher quality, more regular updates that keep the game fresh and interesting longer, and whether or not these are more substantial than what we saw in D3 seasons. Time will tell. We will not know until 6 a year after launch. We just won't. And I'll say too, I think there is a lot of value in this model, just at least conceptually, but also as it's played out with games. I think especially for the most dedicated hardcore players who want to stick with one game for months or years straight. Nowadays, I am more inclined to try a wider variety of games. I just enjoy gaming that way more. But there were times in my past, great example is with World of Warcraft from about 2004 to 2010. That was pretty much the only game I played that entire time. Maybe I'd pick up something here and there and I'd play for a couple of weeks, but for the most part.
Yeah, like for the most part, I agree with him. Like, right now, I am more in the, play this a bit, play that a bit. I would say like few months at a time. Like, I'm just playing Guild Wars 2 right now. But when I was playing WoW religiously, I would not even consider playing anything for like a week outside of WoW. I would just WoW. But at the same time, WoW kind of forced you to keep playing it because the loot system is so fucking trash that I had to keep doing the same fucking dungeons on Mythic Plus to get the fucking item I want, and then also hopefully I would get in the vault at the max item level. Yay! So yeah, obviously like that would probably be another thing, but ever since I started playing Final Fantasy 14, which I'm not playing right now, I did like the whole MSQ and whatever, and did the dungeons and the raids and all that, and I was like, I'm okay to take a break now, wait for the story to, move on. Play some other shit. Play some Elden Ring, play some Guild Wars 2 now and see how that one goes. I played a bit of ESO to see how it is again. I tried PoE again, gave it another shot, boring as fuck, you know. I have a bunch of Steam games. I played some VR, I played some Zenith on VR. Like, yeah, I tried other shit because as soon as you're out of the WoW loop, man, like, you're like, your whole world just fucking opens up in front of you. You're like, you know what, let's try some other shit, man. Let's see what else is out there. And man, there's a lot out there.
I was just playing WoW. Nowadays, I'll still play WoW with every new expansion, but then I'll put it down after a month or two and I'll check out some of the new releases that just came out. Or I'll revisit some of the other MMOs that I like Guild Wars 2 or ESO. Maybe I'll jump back into Destiny or Warframe. Maybe I'll try the new Call of Duty. I'm actually interested in checking out Warzone 2. In general, the point being, there's a lot more variety of games that I want to play month in and month out compared to the past. And me in the past preferred sticking with one game and the live service model. World of Warcraft and a lot of MMOs with their subscriptions, as was the case back when it launched. That was very, very common. Nowadays, not so much. Only a few MMOs have subscriptions. But the idea of paying more than the box price to get regular updates, that is very appealing as a mono gamer, someone who likes to just play one game at a time. And so for those people, this live service trend is probably better in a lot of ways because they've got a game that they love and it is constantly getting updated because it is constantly.
I am really jealous in a way of players who can just play the same fucking game with no live service for fucking decades. Look at Mr. Llama and Diablo 2, right? Look at Harmstem with StarCraft 2. Look at God damn. Look at Tally with World of Warcraft, right? Look at Preach before he quit the game, before he quit World of Warcraft. Yeah, so many players just they can, but those are live service. So I mean, the World of Warcraft one doesn't. Look at all the Elden Ring players, the Dark Souls 3 players, Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2, Demon Souls, all of those players, single player. Look at all the Skyrim players that just keep playing Skyrim for years. It's like, what do you have left to do in these games? Like, what is so fun about replaying this? But they like it. And in a sense, I'm kind of jealous of them because, like, I wish I could just enjoy the same game on repeat and mindlessly play it, right? But I can't. Like, I don't know what it is, what they have in them that, like, makes it fun for them. Like, what kind of goal setting they find appealing in these games. But, like, for me, it's, like, usually once I finish the game, like, it's very hard for me to get back to it unless something massive changed, right? Every other day, I'm like, yo, I kind of want to play Elden Ring. But then I'm like, but I already beat all the bosses, explored pretty much everything. Yeah, there's a few builds I didn't try, but because I don't really care about that play style. Then it's like, okay, I kind of want to try this. And then I'm like, oh man, but I have to go through all of that now. Right? Because, like, I don't know how people, like, really enjoy replaying games. It's so odd to me. It's so alien. But at the same time, I'm also, like, I wish I could,
getting funded. That's just kind of the way it goes. But on the flip side of that, nowadays, because I do try more games, a lot of times some of this live service stuff just gets in the way, and you have the annoyance of dealing with battle passes on top of that, and the kind of the pressure to play into that. It's on me whether or not I fall for that pressure, but it is nevertheless.
Which is another fantastic thing, but if this is a live service with seasons, I feel like this is actually good even for people who like to play other games, because you can leave for a few seasons and then come back for another season. It's like, oh, this season looks like they added a bunch of shit that I'm actually interested in. Then you go in, you play it, and it's like you have fun for 3 months and you quit again, you go somewhere else, right? So it's like, I don't mind it. And with like a live service with seasons is also pretty nice for people who don't want to play only one game.
Built into the game to try to push you in that direction. Either way, we don't know how that's all going to play out in D4. Like I said, we'll have to wait until launch. Right now, though, we got that endgame beta going on like we talked about. The current expectation is that we are going to be getting some sort of Diablo 4 pre-order announcement that will open up later this year, probably at or around the Game Awards, and that is also probably likely to come with some form of beta access, whether that is early access to the open beta or access to a closed beta prior to the open beta. And this is just a discussion video about an unreleased game. Of course, how D4 is going to perform as a live service game will not be determined until after it releases. I do think overall it's a great idea, even if I'm not in love with all of their monetization plans. It does seem as of now to be on the less aggressive side of funding a live service title. I've seen just very popular games be way more over the top aggressive, and I understand also that the continuous monetization is mostly needed for trying to regularly update a game, especially if they do really try to live up to this quarterly, consistent, fully fleshed out content. Yeah, they probably need something. But also, don't forget, they're going to be selling expansions as well. On top of the base game, expansions will have to be purchased. This has been confirmed many, many times and has been confirmed even very recently as well. So with that in mind, how substantial exactly can seasons even potentially be if they are also planning to hold presumably the biggest updates and content adds for those expansions that they're selling? Stuff like new classes and new zones, major new features. I have to assume that all of those major things will probably go in the expansions. So how much are we really getting in seasons? Like, how much would
I need to farm a bit more gold in World of Warcraft to buy some tokens, so I don't have to spend money on this.
there be to even add, knowing that they're still selling expansions as well? A lot of questions unknown. I make these videos because I think they're interesting topics, and they're things that
this is what I hope they don't do, and they don't do like a DLC for champions. So like how Diablo 3 added the Necromancer pack, and it was like $15 or $5 or whatever. I think it was 15, then was 5, but yeah, it's like I hope they don't do that.
Like answers to. I'm not demanding anything, right? I'm just a YouTuber. Don't worry. As much as some people think we don't influence game development, I promise you, I'm just a dude talking to a camera. If Blizzard's making decisions based on the words that come out of my mouth, you probably need better people in charge of who's making your decisions. Don't listen to me.
I mean, they can take your words into account, especially if you have a massive following. I'm not saying they should completely listen to you, but they should take some stuff into consideration. Right now, he's not really critiquing the game. He's just explaining what's happening. So he's not really, like, there's nothing to take. But yeah, if someone gives a critique and it's like someone well-known and like a lot of people follow and agree with, then yeah, maybe take them into account, or at least have a conversation with that person at the very least, you know? Like, all these interviews that the developers did, specifically in World of Warcraft, with the content creators, but like there were no hard questions asked by the content creators. Even Preach, who's like no filter questions, didn't ask the hard questions. He has some hard questions, but it's like he didn't really ask hard questions.
Me, I just like talking about games. I'm no developer, but yeah, that's it for today's video. It's interesting. We will see where they land with the live service stuff. There's still a lot of unknowns, but they're saying it's going to be big and substantial. Let's see if they deliver. Yeah, that's it for today. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. See you next time.
Now, I'd say he didn't, like, Bridge didn't ask aggressive hard questions. He didn't ask aggressively. Or aggressive questions. Not aggressive as in like confrontational, as in like deeper into the subject of like, why did you put the corruption vendor on a time loop? What was the goal behind it? Why did you think this was a good idea? Why didn't you change it when all the player base was asking you to change it? Why did you make the essences not account bound? What was the logic behind it? What was the logic behind not doing the ripcord first? You know, all these, like, tell me why you guys are not doing what the players tell you that this is what should be done from the get-go, right? Why do you wait until all these players leave? Questions like that is what I'm saying, you know? So, yeah. Diablo 4 monetization plans are concerning. I think this is the same one,
Diablo
right?
4 is
It's the same one?
concerning monetization plans. Not a surprise. Not a...
No, it's a different one. Okay, anyways, that's the video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.